there, and good afternoon. Are you ready for that break time? Because I'm ready for this conversation. Um, I just want to break right into it. We're talking about sharing, and a lot of what gets labeled as vulnerability online and even other places is actually self-abandonment in disguise. Let's call it what it is. And I'm going to prove to you and help you understand why it exactly is so. And so if your heart is hemorrhaging, if it's bleeding, your story isn't ready to teach because you're speaking from a place of that wound. And it's asking you really to be tended to. Take care of me. And so to give you a perfect example, have you ever hit post, right? Or opened your mouth and said something and felt immediately, that feeling like, ugh, immediately you felt that gut pull that maybe I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, that. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? That's what I'm talking about. And that's the place that I'm talking from. It's that mental spiral of, oh, why did I say that? Or did they see it already? Can I delete it? Can I pull it back? Can it disappear? And so let me tell you, one of the only places I know that if someone hasn't seen something yet that you can pull back in time is in your DMs, because it gives you that opportunity to say, for myself or for everyone. And when you pull it back from everyone, no one gets to see it. But when you do a text on most phones, yes, you can delete it, but you're only deleting it from yourself because everyone else has already seen it. And the same thing goes with the email. You know that recall. If they've already opened it, they've seen it. And then, most importantly, when things come from your mouth, you can't pull them back. And that's why this is so important. It's not just about embarrassment. It's about the fact that your nervous system is going into overdrive at that point because you just broke your own boundary. Yeah, I'm just calling it what it is. You weren't sharing to connect. Let's get real. You were sharing to perform. You were sharing to be seen. And now you're the emperor with no clothes because you feel exposed, right? And for many women, especially women in leadership, leadership has been recently modeled as oversharing. Be real. Let them see the real you. Let them understand who you are. Let them see you as a real person, right? Tell your story became the code for bleed in public. You don't tell everybody everything. And because you were taught to do this performance for the sake of good leadership, for the sake of making sure people understood who you really were, the wholeness of you, you bring that same performance to your truth. But real leadership, to be honest, it doesn't leak pain. It lives from clarity. Vulnerability without boundaries isn't connection. It's really self-abandonment. And I want to say that again, because I want you to get that vulnerability without boundaries is not connection. If you really think about it, if you really think about all those times in your brain or all those times in your life that you've overshared and how you felt during that, did you feel any more connected to the person that you talked to? Or did you feel, well, more embarrassed? That the next time you saw them, you wondered, what are they thinking? Maybe I shared too much, right? And the more you share from that unhealed place, the more you outsource your validation. Because that's really what you wanted. You wanted someone to tell you that you're right in the way you feel. I would feel the same way. I don't blame you. You should do this and you should do that, right? That's what you really wanted. And every time you post and you regret it, your nervous system pays the price. You start to mistrust yourself and your words and your instincts. Because you've learned now that every time you overpost, you overshare, that the backlash or the response that you got wasn't what you wanted. And it wasn't from who you wanted it from. And so your audience, those that you're sharing with, they're not moved. Most times, they're confused. Why is she telling me this? They're overwhelmed. Ooh, too much TMI. Or for some of them, they're re-traumatized. Because your story could be hashing up some of theirs. And so you lose trust without even knowing it. Has someone ever told you something about them? And once you knew that, you start seeing them in a whole different light, in a whole new way. And it's like, I didn't think she had those issues, right? And so you don't have to silence your story. That's not what I'm saying. You just need to steward it. Be a good steward of your story. Know who you can share it with. Know how much of it you can share. Right? The wound isn't the message. The healing is. Nobody wants to see a wound that's wide open, gaping, and oozing. They're not ready for that. But when they see the scar and the healing that took place, they're like, she's been through some things. But I also see she came out of those things. You're not called to narrate every pain. You're called to carry that peace that you've gained through that learning and walking through that fire. That's what others want you to share about. Ask yourself, am I ready to speak from the scar? Or am I still bleeding? If you're ready to speak from the scar, then absolutely share it. We want to know your lesson and what you've learned through that lesson. But there's more to this. And so before we close, we have a few more minutes. And I want you to do something with me. I want you to go through this practice of pausing before you post, pausing before you blurt, pausing before you hit send. And so I want to walk you through a moment. I want you to know what it feels like to pause first. It's a small reset to check your emotional clarity before you share. And so you're on break with me. And if you're in your car, great. You can do this wonderfully. I don't care where you are. But if you can, I invite you to do this with me. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to take one deep breath. I mean, from the diaphragm, from the depths of your soul. And I want you to let it out slowly. That was fast, huh? Okay, let's do it again. I want you to take one deep breath in and let it out. Now, think of a time that you shared something personal online, in a conversation, in an email, maybe even in your prayer circle. And after you shared, you felt, well, a little off, uncomfortable, a little dirty, maybe, a little shame. Like maybe I went too far on that one or said it for the wrong reasons, right? Do you have it? Now ask yourself, what were you actually needing at that moment? Why did you share? What were you hoping to get? What did you want to achieve? Was it connection, validation, relief? How about visibility? Were you leading or were you leaking? Now, imagine responding to that need before sharing. What would it have looked like if you took care of that need that you were trying to fill first? What would have honored your story and your healing? You're allowed 100% to have needs. We all do. We're human. But you're not required to expose yourself to meet them. That's what boundaries and emotional clarity is for. That's what it's for. And Sean, thank you for showing up. I do see you there, and a happy Thursday. That's what boundaries and emotional sharing and clarity is for. Emotional clarity is for. So, this is the kind of reset that we just went through, that we began together in my emotional reset experience. Not to silence your story, not at all, but to strengthen your authority in how you share it. To make sure that when you speak, it comes from the wholeness of who you are, not from the hidden plea to be seen. To say, don't you see my pain? Don't you know how hurt I am? I need you to comfort me. That's not a place that everyone can hold. So I hope somehow this has helped you today to rethink and relook at the next time you share, right? And I want to go over here and look at my comments before I leave. And Sean, 100%. I'm glad you say that. Sean says that sharing from your scars, I mean, sharing from your scars instead of the wound, that's what he says. And you're right. We should ask ourselves, what is our motivation? Because that's the real need. And our emotions are meant to be felt. They're our message and they're our energy. And I love these comments. And I really thank you for being here today, Sean, and for sharing the insights that you've gotten and that you share with others. And so thank you for being here today. Again, you're on the Unlearning Break Time Live. And I thank you for sitting here with me today, going through that exercise, if you did. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.